Hey folks, for this week in our Hashtag Struggle series, we're taking a look at the struggle of compassion. One of the people in the Bible that really got it when it comes to compassion is Jesus' half-brother, James. He had a heart for people who were in need, and he didn't mince words when he wrote to his fellow believers. He wrote this in chapter 2 of his letter. Suppose you see a brother or a sister who has no food or clothing, and you say, "Goodbye, and have a good day. Stay warm and eat well." But then you don't give that person any food or clothing. What good does that do? So you see, faith by itself isn't enough. Unless it produces good deeds, it is dead and useless. So where did this compassion that James had come from? I'm sure that a large part of it came from his interactions with his brother Jesus. He was able to see firsthand that when Jesus saw someone in need, he didn't just say hi and goodbye and have a nice day. He was always moved to action. One of the people in my life that gets it when it comes to compassion is my friend Leanne. Leanne is passionate when it comes to helping people in need, and she inspires me on a regular basis. So let's now take a look and listen to her story.
First John 3:16 through 18. We know what real love is because Jesus gave up his life for us. So we also ought to give up our lives for our brothers and sisters. If someone has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need, but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person? Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. Our actions will show that we belong to the truth, so that we will be confident when we stand before God. My name is Leanne Harold. I am married to Jay Harold. I have two children, a 25-year-old named Matthew and a 19-year-old named Rachel. I was raised to be a compassionate person, and when I tell people that, they kind of give me a funny look. But the reality is both of my parents were super into the Lions Club and would go to every fundraiser, every service project that they could get their hands on. And since they didn't want or weren't able to pay for a babysitter, I went along. And then when my baby brother came along, he went along too. And so the two of us were brought to every fundraiser and every service project that the Lions Club in Indianapolis did. All throughout my childhood. And so it was ingrained in my soul to serve, and became a lifestyle as I became an adult. Here at the Jar we have the Community Basket, and the Community Basket is very unique because it is what is considered a non-food food bank. And so what a non-food food bank is it provides all of the items that you can't buy with food stamps. And so the Community Basket is actually the second iteration of this concept that I've had. In 2003, I wrote a business plan for an organization called Take 5 Community Outreach, which I like to term is the Community Basket's little sister. And with a shoestring budget and hope and lots of prayer, I put together the Take 5 Community Outreach, and we became the first known organization in the nation that was non-food. And I was inspired to do it because I had learned that you can't buy toilet paper, you can't buy toothpaste, you can't buy paper towels, you can't buy cleaning supplies with food stamps. Most people don't know that. It's a shock to most people when they find that out. And so what happens is people just assume that you're going to get all your needs met because you're on food stamps, you're on welfare. That's not the case. A lot of times people are having to choose between medication and buying toilet paper, or choosing between school supplies and buying toothpaste. And so the purpose behind the Community Basket was to alleviate that burden so that they can feel a sense of peace and a sense of relief, and also use the money that they would normally spend on that on other things. I'm always looking for opportunity. I always have my antenna out looking for the possibility to help somebody, make their life a little better, say a kind word, do a little act of kindness, pay it forward in some way, because I'm one of those people that truly believes that in the hope of people. And so I don't lose that kind of hope, and so I'm constantly just kind of looking and developing the relationships and seeing the people and learning their stories, so that when a need arises, I can jump in and do it. I'll give you an example. I have a former band kid who I just absolutely adore. I used to be a band mom and have a lot of classes of Yorktown High School, go Tigers, and that were in the marching band, and I was their band mom. And this specific boy, who's now 26, he posted something on Facebook probably a month ago or 6 weeks ago that says, hey, I've just lost my job for the summer and I don't think I'm going to have it for the fall. So I'm selling my photography. Is there any photography that you would like? I can do big prints, little prints. And I said, sure. I want the biggest print that you have, and I want to pay you the most for it. So what I was able to do was to give him dignity, because he was selling his artwork, also able to put food on his table, and I got a really cool photograph that I could hang on my wall. So that's kind of like what I like to do, is kind of watch and then swoop in and just try and make a difference in people's lives. It's a lot of fun to do it, but it's even more fun when it's anonymous. I mean, it's fantastic when it's anonymous. I am a huge proponent of the Great Commandment. And so what that means for me is, in order to love people and show them the love of God, it has to be Jesus's hands and feet. It has to be faith in action, because you can say whatever you want, but never follow up with it or never put it into action, and then it just rings hollow. What I have seen over the years is that people that have been hurt by religion, quote unquote religion, they don't want to have anything to do with God. And so then here I come in, all of feisty and enthusiasm and crazy and never stopping and always trying to look for the good in people. I come in and they get curious, because I'm not what they think of when they think of a person who is considered a Christian. And so what I do is I try and explain to them that I just follow Jesus, and I love God and love people, and everything else from that seems to work itself out. If you start there, it just works itself out. It's messy, but it works. I am constantly interrupted by compassion and acting on that compassion. I am constantly looking for ways to make people's lives just a little bit better, ways to surprise them, ways to show them that they have value. I think a lot of what I see these days are people being devalued, and my goal is to bring even the most basic value back into their lives, that they are valued, that they are loved, that they count, and that they matter. A couple of years ago for spring break, my husband and daughter and I went to New York City. And when we visit New York City, we stay with a friend and we like to ride the subways. It's a lot of fun. There is never a dull moment. But my daughter and I decided beforehand that we were going to make these care packages fit into a gallon Ziploc bag, and they had basic necessities: socks, water, toothpaste, anything that could be portable, because our intention was to give them out to homeless people. And so when we went to New York and we were on the subways, she and I would be packing a couple of these each, and it would be a game to see who could find the person to help first. And so we had several instances where they were sleeping, homeless. There was this homeless woman who was asleep, kind of down like this, and all of her belongings were around her. And Rachel walked up and just dropped the bag next to her. The woman never moved. She was going to wake up to a really nice surprise that my daughter did, and I thought that was really cool. We were in St. Patrick's Cathedral, and during the day, a lot of the homeless go there and they sleep in the pews. And so we would just leave the packages in the pews so that when they woke up, they would have them. And it was really cool because nobody ever knew it was us. Nobody was expecting it to be us. And we were able to just like lightning round help people out. Back when we were doing Take 5, we got to know people. We invested in their lives. And a lot of people would come in for a few times and then we'd never see them again. And we didn't think anything of it because we figured that their life station had changed or their circumstances, and we were just content knowing that we had helped them in the moment. We were doing a fundraiser where we were soliciting donations around the community, and we went to Best Buy. And I'm doing my pitch, and I'm doing my spiel about how Take 5 is a non-food food bank and all this, and the guy just nodded at me, and then he turned around and he started placing items in front of me. And I thought he was ignoring me, so I'm getting all feisty of, aren't you listening to what I'm saying? And he stops, he puts his hands on the stuff, and he goes, "You don't know this, but my wife was out of work a month ago, and you were the only people that would help her." And he said, "That made an impression on us. Now we're both working now, this is my way of paying back." That's the power of one right there, is you don't know who you're helping. You don't know what's gonna stick. It's like you take a handful of seed and you just throw it out there and you hope that some of it sticks, and some of it does, and sometimes it does in the most unlikely of places. And that's the beauty of it, is seeing people who I just help. It's a big deal, but it's not a big deal. It's what I do. When I do something, an act of kindness, I challenge them. A lot of times, I could never repay you. Yeah, you can. Here's how you do it. You do something nice for somebody else. You pay it forward. You figure out a way. Doesn't have to be equal time, treasure, or talent. You figure out a way that you can make a difference in somebody's life. It can be really small, it can be really big, whatever you want to do. And it makes a difference. Another example is we have this wonderful volunteer. Her name is Dorothy. Dorothy didn't start out as a volunteer. Dorothy started out as a client. Dorothy would be first in line, both on the Saturdays and the Thursdays that we were open. Very first in line. She needed the laundry voucher. And so what we did was, finally, I opened the door one day and I said, "Come on in." And she's like, "What?" And I said, "You're going to volunteer for us." And she is one of our top volunteers. And that was almost 3 years ago when we did that. And she is there like clockwork every single time, sharing her life, pouring her life into everybody that she sees, all because she showed up first to get a laundry voucher on the time that we were open. So that's the important work, the important stuff that we're doing, because we are taking people that are in need and we are turning them into people that help people in need. A lot of people who want to serve are sometimes shy and introverted and scared and not sure where to start. But it's the one step. Take one chance, one small risk towards helping somebody. Start as simple as saying hello to someone that you normally wouldn't. Saying thank you. Having patience in a situation where patience really isn't warranted. Where everybody else would be getting frustrated, you stand patient. That's an act of kindness. There are so many different ways of serving that don't involve money, they don't involve any type of talent, and they don't involve being a type of person, being an extroverted person. They involve, okay, this is where my focus is. I want to try and just do one small thing. One small thing leads to another small thing that leads to a little bit more courage, that leads to a little bit more confidence, and then all of a sudden, you're changing the world.
Well, the Community Basket has served thousands of people in our community and has become a tangible way of showing people God's love. And it all kind of started because Leanne chose to allow compassion to move her to action. This week, I want to challenge you to unplug for 1 hour and focus on compassion. That might mean serving people in your community or at church. It might mean helping out a friend in need. Let's take a minute to hear from Caleb Ferguson, our worship leader and Celebrate Recovery director, and about how he tries to live out compassion.
Well, hey guys, I'm Caleb, and I want to ask you a question. What is the greatest area in our lives that needs to change regarding compassion? What's an area in our lives, whether it be family, work, friends, maybe even our church, an area of our lives that we need to be displaying more compassion, the way God intended? So after praying and after asking God to identify some areas in my life that I could be changing regarding compassion, I decided that I could be volunteering more, that I could be helping out others in a different way. And so I volunteered at the Community Basket to be helping other individuals around our community. And I encourage everyone to pray, to stay in the Word this week. And I encourage you to ask God, what are the areas that we could be displaying more compassion?